Okay, can we talk about the Situation Room, or is that like a situation?
Well, yes, it's a fun situation.
Welcome to Rendered, where we explore the future of AI and creativity.
After 9/11, I walked into a job fair at Arizona State University and saw a CIA booth, and the rest is kind of history.
Take us back to a moment in the Situation Room that's reframed how you thought about modern threats.
Thinking to myself, wait, I joined CIA to go fight terrorism all around the world, go fight bad guys overseas. A nation state just came after an American company and shut down their commerce.
Why don't we have that? We need that.
I don't
Should
know.
we build it?
We should. I think we just came up with $1 million idea. Now, don't publish this episode. Save this art for ourselves. Come up with this. We get rich.
There we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Rendered, the show where we talk to the people building the future and explore what's coming next in tech, art, and culture. I'm your host, Praniti Sinha. Today's guest, Tim Roemer, is the CEO of GMI, a technology firm that builds secure, scalable IT and cybersecurity solutions. Tim is also the former director of Homeland Security and the chief information security officer for the state of Arizona, where he led statewide cybersecurity efforts. And before that, he spent a decade at the CIA, including 2 years at the White House Situation Room. In this episode, we will talk about fear, trust, and the future of cybersecurity, including how AI is transforming the threat landscape, how to protect yourself in a digital-first world, and how Tim's journey from briefing the president to leading a cybersecurity company shows what's really at stake. So, Tim, welcome to Rendered. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. It's so great to get to know you recently at a leadership conference. This is what our industry needs to do more of. We need more of this. We need more information sharing and the good guys coming together to tackle the challenges.
Totally, the good guys.
Absolutely. Honored to be here.
Cool. Okay, so let's dive in. So your journey spans from national intelligence, state-level security, and now your private sector leadership. What drew you to the mission of protecting people and systems?
You know, shortly after 9/11, I always say shortly after, I guess about 2 years after 9/11, I walked into a job fair at Arizona State University and saw a CIA booth, and the rest is kind of history. That's the short version of the story of how you can't get what you don't ask for. But what drew me to it is my grandfather was an extremely successful FBI agent throughout his entire career going after organized crime, mainly in Chicago. And I knew after 9/11 that I wanted to do something of significance to kind of help the country. I just didn't know what it looked like. And after 9/11 and the CIA sort of recruitment at a job fair, I just knew that, we live in a really, volatile world. And I wanted to be part of the solutions and on the government side. So yeah, I guess you could say it was a little bit of a family history and family calling combined with current events, almost like the nature plus nurture, like combined. That was my real calling.
I love that story. And I've seen CIA booths at career fairs and stuff. And I just figured they're looking for like a very specific person. It's quite intimidating to approach them. So what was that process like once you approached them getting into the actual CIA?
I think my grandfather's success and experience, and you have to understand, like when I was a little kid, like some of my earliest memories in life are like coming home from preschool and my mom would say, "Oh, here, quiet down. Zip's on Geraldo Rivera. Grandfather," we call him Zip as his nickname. He's on Larry King, like all these things. And so in the late 80s, early 90s, my grandfather was always on TV being interviewed about the mob.
Okay.
What really, the reason why that shaped this for me and why it's of significance importance is when I walked in, I saw the CIA booth. I guess I wasn't intimidated. I wasn't too starstruck. I mean, I was excited,
Yeah.
but I thought this is real. I think a lot of people think, oh my God, this is fake. Maybe it's the Culinary Institute of America. I don't know. Or they think like, no, I don't trust them because I knew from my grandfather's experience that I could trust working for their federal government. You could have a great, successful career and it could be so meaningful and impactful.
Yeah.
That's what really drove me to, I guess that you would say, the application process, which is, wow, talk about a headache.
Yeah.
And then that doesn't even consider your lifestyle polygraphs, your psychological evaluations, your drug testing, you name it.
Yeah.
But that's what really shaped sort of my drive and I guess my confidence, you could say.
Okay, makes sense. And at what age do you have to kind of decide, hey, I want to join the CIA or FBI before there's too much like stuff in your history where you're like, oh man, I missed the boat?
Well, that's such a good question because I try to, give back, locally here in the community in Scottsdale, Arizona. I
Yeah.
try to go talk at high schools, my former high school, different places, and I try to motivate our younger generation to make good decisions
Yeah.
now in their lives because you never know what you're going to want to do and you don't want to have an opportunity not out there for you.
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick story. I didn't get into any trouble in high school, fortunately, and that's how I got to this point in my career. But I didn't apply myself in high school. I think I told you this quick story over coffee in Napa,
Yeah.
but I got recruited to play football. Ended up ultimately taking a football scholarship to Northern Arizona University, but I had an opportunity to go play football at Dartmouth, and I was being recruited. And I was the happiest, most excited
Yeah.
18-year-old guy in the country thinking I could go to an Ivy League school, get an Ivy League education, and still play football. Well, once they got my transcripts, they literally, the head football coach called me and said, "You're not smart enough to get in here. Your SAT scores are too low." And it hurt.
Yeah.
Somebody telling you, no, you can't do something,
Yeah.
and mainly because I didn't apply myself.
Yeah.
And so even though I hadn't gone out and gotten into trouble, I didn't put a good foot forward and it harmed me later on in life. So you think about even like that freshman, sophomore, junior year of high school, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
let me get my 3.0 GPA. Let me
Yep.
focus on throwing passes and, hitting baseballs instead of focusing in the classroom. What I tell all
Yeah.
the kids now is you don't want to be in my shoes of having somebody say, no, you can't go to school here, especially when it's you didn't apply yourself. You
Yeah.
didn't do the bare minimum. So at that point in my life, that was my motivation. And my whole career has kind of turned into this, what I call chasing Dartmouth.
Yeah.
I'm chasing a Dartmouth career
Yeah.
with a undergraduate degree from Arizona State University.
Yeah.
And so when I got to CIA and when I got to the White House Situation Room, people were always asking me, "Where'd you go to school?"
Yep.
And I'd say ASU. And they're like, "What does that stand for?"
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to, I love Arizona State. I'm a proud alum, but
Yep.
people on the East Coast are, Ivy League undergrad,
Yeah.
Johns Hopkins for their master's degree. And so my entire career, even to this day, my daily motivation is kind of waking up and having that. I'm chasing Dartmouth, like I'm chasing that Ivy League career with a
Yeah.
public school undergrad.
Yeah. No, I love that. I feel like you're a great example because I do think yes, it's very important to apply yourself, give it your best effort in high school, but I think you're also an example of maybe someone who didn't do that, but like look at where you are now and like look at the places you've been. So I think that also gives us hopefully some of the maybe younger people listening a little bit more cushion room. And I actually feel very similar. Like I remember in high school, my counselor saying like, I don't think you're going to get into any of these colleges. All the ones that you think are safeties are actually reaches for you. And I remember
Wow.
being completely devastated then. I don't
Well,
think I
you
turned
turned
out
out
too yeah, I don't think
incredible.
I turned out too bad.
You turned out incredible as well. It's been
Time
great
will
getting to
tell.
know your background. And boy, am I a fan of the work that you've done and continue to do. And the panel you were on at the leadership conference was extremely eye opening as well. Yeah, huge kudos to you. I feel like if I was as successful and if I could have my own podcast, I would want you as a guest on my podcast.
No. Okay, well, when it happens, I'm there.
Perfect. Deal. Hold you to it.
I love it. Okay, so question, can we talk about the situation room or is that like a
Sure.
situation?
Well, yes, it's a fun situation, actually. No,
Okay.
you can talk about it. So everything in my career, everything in my bio and everything has been fully approved by CIA's Office of Public Affairs.
Okay, cool.
I was never undercover in my career. Part of the reason was when the agency was hiring a lot after 9/11, they were trying to get people in to support the CIA mission around the world, trying to
Mhm.
plus up efforts after 9/11. Many young officers, if you will, like CIA officers came in, and a lot of us came in actually over, like just non-undercover, working out of
Mhm.
headquarters. Any intelligence agency around the world can drive down Route 123 in Virginia and see which license plates are coming in and out. The
Mhm.
undercover employees would never be caught going into like a known CIA facility for the most part. As I had that career and it was very secretive, there were no phones in the building, there was no work outside of work. You didn't really talk a lot about it, but it was on my W-2. So like if you're applying for a mortgage, if you're
Yeah.
going for a car loan, everybody knew kind of like, hey, I have to say, I work here. When I left CIA to work for Governor Ducey in Arizona
Yeah.
and then moved back home, I had to have my entire resume and cover letter approved. And then still, it was like, okay, well, you did these jobs. You were assigned to the White House Situation Room, which honestly, despite the fact you would think it would be the most secretive thing in the world,
Yeah.
In a way, it's very overt because now you are walking in and out of the West Wing on a daily basis. Everybody in the world can see this guy. Like, you put
Yeah.
on your badge at like kind of the last minute as you come through Secret Service, but
Yeah.
any Joe Schmo tourist or any intelligence agency knows exactly who's coming in and out of there. So, yes, we can talk about it publicly. Happy to chat about it.
Okay, I did not know that. I have watched The West Wing like 10 times.
Amazing
So
show.
this moment feels surreal to me. So maybe take us back to a moment in the Situation Room where there was either like a crisis or a decision, and it can be physical or digital, that sort of reframed how you thought about like modern threats.
Well, then it's the day that I decided I needed to learn about cybersecurity and respect why cybersecurity, or as I like to call it, cyber terrorism, was going to be a significant part of our nation's security and global security. And I pretty early on in working in the Situation Room, we had to have when you're one of the analysts working there and assigned there so you're a nonpartisan detailee, so all my paychecks still come from CIA, but I'm assigned over to the White House. That's where I'm going to be conducting my business. I had to compete heavily for that assignment, but I get assigned. You
Okay.
had to learn really a little about a lot because everything going on in the world, you had to have the ability to know what's happening in Russia, Crimea,
Mm-hmm.
Syria's civil war, homegrown violent extremism at home, active shooter situations, school
Wow.
shootings, mall shootings, Boston Marathon bombing happened while I was in the Situation Room, all these
Wow.
different things. So you had to you couldn't be like a Russian analyst and, oh, I only know anything about Russia. Well, Russia may not be the topic for today. What happened is these nation states started coming after American banks online with DDoS attacks.
Okay.
This is my time in the Situation Room, so people understand, 2012 to 2014. And all of a sudden, we all had this light bulb moment where we're thinking, okay, we're going to give this update. The president needs to know that Bank of America went down for a few hours today.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking to myself, wait, I joined CIA to go fight terrorism all around the world, go fight bad guys overseas so we don't have to fight them over here at home. A nation state just came after an American company and shut down their commerce.
Mm-hmm.
So it was this strange moment where you're thinking you can be attacked by anyone at any given moment in time from anywhere around the world
Yeah.
in cyberspace. And it was that moment where we said, well, if you can take a company's website down, that's economic warfare.
Yeah.
What else can you do? So we
Yeah.
all started having conversations. This is 13 years ago about what if they came after critical infrastructure? What if they went out after, a healthcare company, a hospital? What if it wasn't nation states? What if it was just hackers? What if it was criminals? What if it was hacktivists?
Yeah.
That to me was the turning point in my career in the Situation Room because of the breadth of knowledge you had to know across national security spectrum and the whole arena. It
Mm-hmm.
opened my eyes to cyber terrorism.
Yeah.
Then when I came back to work for Governor Ducey, I was one of the younger
Yeah.
advisors, especially on the security side. And everybody looked at me like, well, this guy just came from working at NSA and CIA because, like I would go to NSA Cybercom, days off, work with them, different things like that. That make him manage our cybersecurity policy and strategy. And I had this, oh my God moment because I thought, I know nation state threats. I
Uh-huh.
know very classified capability stuff. You're asking me to come up with like enterprise cybersecurity controls for 36,000 state of Arizona employees
Yeah.
that protect 7.5 million Arizonans' data. I'm like, oh my God, let me listen to some podcasts
Yeah.
on my way to Silicon Valley to go meet with some companies. It was like baptized by fire, drinking out of a fire hose.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I surrounded myself with a lot of smart people at the working level and we figured it out. But that was the biggest, most significant moment of what will the modern threats be like. And now today we're watching what's happening around the world in these wars.
Yeah.
Most of the wars are being fought with technology. I mean,
Yeah.
literal drones,
Yeah.
things like that, cybersecurity, not necessarily with soldiers and boots on the ground.
Yeah, it must be kind of crazy to have seen that shift go from more of like a physical, I don't even know if it's called physical, right? Because even these like cyber drones end up having physical impact, but like having it switch from more of physical terrorism to cyber terrorism. And in terms of like resourcing and effort that they put into tackling one or the other, do you feel like that has also been shifting?
It has been. I got to give a shout out. I
Yeah.
serve as an advisor to Night Dragon, a venture capital led and created by Dave DeWalt, an incredible CEO in the industry with a great career. Night Dragon is doing a phenomenal job of getting the word out of this topic, which is really the phrase is cyber physical convergence.
Okay.
So it's the convergence of our cybersecurity threats and resources the way we come up with innovative technology, the way they decide to fund a company in their portfolio as a venture capital to push that company forward. And the great thing about it is, yes, it's a business decision. Everybody wants to be successful in it, but it actually creates innovative solutions for us all to be able to solve modern threats. In those threats, what's happening is a cyber concern is having a physical connection to it. And I'll give you a
Huh?
quick example.
Yeah.
When I was working with the state of Arizona, we would do all these tabletop exercises, especially partnering with the National Guard. Well, the National Guard really came to me, the head of the National Guard, the adjutant general, and said, well, Tim, what are you going to need from me in a cyber emergency? And so I really gave the example, and we got completely on the same page, that let's use that last example of many years ago, a bank going down. Well, if a bank goes down in modern times, in one bank, let's say it's because what, 4 or 5 main banks in America that 90% of us use.
Yeah.
If one of those goes down,
Yeah.
Bank of America customers are not going to be the only ones who panic.
Yeah.
Wells Fargo
Yeah.
and Chase and everybody else are going to say, well, guess what?
Yep.
I just saw on the news that you can't get money out of that bank. I'm going to
Yeah.
go get money out of my bank.
Yeah.
There isn't enough money in the ATMs. There's not enough money in the banks to give everybody their money. If
Yeah.
they panic, public panic and consumer response will create an environment of sending in the National Guard in order to restore law and order in a cyber emergency. And that's just one of the examples. Healthcare industry could happen as well. Our energy sector, any number of areas. This cyber physical convergence is one of the most important things in the public private partnership in it. Government has to work with the private sector to develop these tools and then put them to use. And one of those night dragon companies that I get to serve on the advisory board of is Data Miner. And I've been using Data Miner for 15 years because it tells me what's happening in the world now before
Mhm.
anybody else picks it up because it's multimodal. So what it's doing is it's looking at billions of data sources every second using advanced AI. So
Yeah.
this is your text, your videos, your pictures, everything that's online and readily available. There aren't enough man hours in the world, eyes on glass, hands on key, to figure out everything that's happening in the world.
Yeah.
But if you're going to protect yourself, whether you're a national security expert or you're the owner of a company,
Yeah.
knowledge is power. You
Yeah.
have to know what's happening in the world now to protect your employees, your facilities, your investments, your family, you name it. That's really what's driving a lot of my motivation right now is this, let's do more on the cyber physical convergence to better protect our society.
Yeah. That is really cool. That's a great mission. And I imagine just like with the advancement of AI and all these other technologies, it's becoming hopefully more like doable to get insights and to do that protection.
Thank you. It's really fun because one of my assignments at CIA, I worked in congressional affairs, and CIA also has it's available online. I'm not giving any secrets here, but for
Yeah.
any of your viewers that aren't familiar, it's really cool. But IQT is InQtel. InQtel is really a venture capital, if you will, a
Mhm.
style of investment of CIA and government funded. The idea is let's invest in technology
Mhm.
companies that create really innovative solutions that will help the national security world if they can come up with something. So an example of
Cool.
this would be during the war on terrorism, we didn't have enough analysts, linguists to
Mhm.
be able to really decipher and analyze, something in Arabic. And this is not a secret again.
Mhm.
These days, all you have to do is go to the CIA website, look at their recruiting, for somebody who speaks Mandarin,
Yeah.
somebody who speaks Russian, things like that. We don't have enough people. Thankfully, by investing in companies that came up with great technology that could translate
Mhm.
immediately and then script it for you has probably saved many, many lives around the world. And that's thanks to funding technology companies to solve those problems.
Yeah. It actually kind of reminds me. Have you seen the movie Inside Man?
Yes.
I was watching it recently and I was cracking up because there's this whole scene where like they're trying to get a translator and they're struggling. And it's like today I could just like pull out my phone, right? And be like, translate this. So
Oh my gosh, such a good example. Like,
yeah,
yeah, what we can do on a smartphone now in a movie that was probably made, I don't know, 15 years ago or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
And they didn't have that ability then. Phenomenal movie.
Great
Love the
movie.
twist at the end. Oh
So good.
my gosh. Yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah, crazy. So you've held a bunch of roles, right? Like Homeland Security, CISO. So for those who don't live in that world, what do these titles actually mean behind the scenes, and what are the core responsibilities for each?
So at the state level,
Mhm.
when you get into leadership roles, when you have that title that comes first, like state of Arizona, think about it is you are now in charge of that area. So, like cybersecurity, chief information security officer for the state of Arizona. That person is in charge of cybersecurity and legally in state statute as the one responsible for in the executive branch protecting Arizonans' data.
Okay.
This is, you talk about not getting sleep at night, giving you some gray hairs.
Yeah.
This means that at every state, you've got your driver's license info at the motor
Huh?
vehicle division. You've got your healthcare information at Department of Health Services. You have any criminal justice information at Department of Public Safety. You have, I could go on and on. Obviously, very importantly, your state Department of Revenue has everybody's tax information.
True.
So in a state like Arizona, 7.5 million Arizonans with 36,000 state of Arizona employees,
Huh?
when you get a statewide title, it's basically saying publicly, Tim Roemer is in charge of this issue to protect our 7.5 million Arizonans' data, and his policies affect the 36,000 employees. Now,
Yeah.
the important caveat here is if I make a decision on an enterprise cybersecurity control that we're going to fund and we're going to put to use, it doesn't mean it goes out to 7.5 million Arizonans. Of course not. It doesn't go out to the private sector. I can only control the state executive branch.
Okay.
So it's just going to be those licenses now go to all those state agencies I just listed.
Mhm.
The fascinating thing that we did in Arizona is we took state dollars, and Governor Ducey showed extreme leadership as a role model for everybody else around the country. He took $10 million before he left office on an ongoing basis and said, we're going to use state purchasing power. We're going to buy more of our enterprise cybersecurity controls. We're then going to give them free of charge to any government entity around the state that can't afford them. So if a small rural municipality and up by the Grand Canyon
Yeah.
can't afford, obviously, a CrowdStrike license
Yeah.
because they can. They come to the Department of Homeland Security and say, hey, I want to apply for this grant. Could I please get, a small rural community only needs, what, 5, 10 licenses of this
Yeah.
stuff?
That's great.
Sure. We give it to them. We help them configure, tune it, download it, manage it. And then the state of Arizona is better protected. It's called whole of state cybersecurity, protecting your whole of state,
Nice.
not just the executive branch. So when you asked about the titles at a state level, that's kind of like your area of responsibility. Now, I ended up becoming the director of Homeland Security for the entire state. That meant from a strategic perspective and a leadership perspective, I was advising the governor in the cabinet on border security, counterterrorism,
Whoa.
large scale event security, cybersecurity, anything like that were kind of the core areas of responsibilities.
Really cool and very seems like a lot. It seems like a little bit of a stressful job.
It was here's the great thing for anybody out there listening, let's say in the younger generation, I would highly recommend finding a job in government early in your career because you will get exposed to so much from an experience perspective that it will advance you in your career. You've got your whole career to make money. Government's not going to pay you as much as the private sector. We all know that. But right out of college, especially going as a cybersecurity analyst, we've told this to a lot of people, like, go work in government. You'll get phenomenal cyber experience working in government. And then, yes, you'll probably get stolen by the private sector in a few years.
Yeah.
That's actually a good way to have a talent pipeline and have that workforce development for the entire country.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I agree. I feel like right out of school, a lot of people are motivated by money. And I think it's really about chasing the experience. Because I think a lot of the times money will come if you're smart, hardworking, and you're working on cool problems, right?
It will. And cool problems. I mean, like, if you think about it, protecting your own family's data, like,
Yeah.
when we recruited, SOC analysts, it was like, hey, you want to help protect your own data? And they said,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of motivated to do that. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, let's
Yeah.
go.
I spent about 2 years working at Capital One in fraud detection,
Oh,
more on the
nice.
engineering side, but it was really cool seeing your work and seeing how to actually, like how you can actually find, like, the bad actors and how you can then actually build a better experience for, like, the good actors, like, the good customers. Something about that is very fulfilling outside of just, like, getting paid and building a product.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm a huge proponent of career technical education.
Okay.
I really, when I was with the state of Arizona, I actually got our HR department to take away the requirement that anybody working on our cyber team had to have a 4-year college degree. If
Cool.
you had the certifications and the real world experience and you were the right person for the job,
Yeah.
having that piece of paper that says I went to a 4-year college shouldn't be a requirement, shouldn't be a barrier
Yeah.
to you coming to work for us.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the industry that in order to, it's not just meet the demand of the industry, it's about how to enhance it.
Yeah.
We need people focused on real world skills for these
Mhm.
certain jobs that are needed. I told this somebody the other day, I'm like, I have great respect for college. I do. I've gone
Yeah,
to college and everything else. But did my history of the Beatles, like, I mean, the band, the Beatles, my history of the Beatles class as an elective at ASU, do anything to further me to become, a national security officer, a CEO? No. It's like, wait, why did we have to do this again? Like, I could
right.
have done it in 2 years. I could have
Yeah,
focused on exactly what I needed. Like, I'm just throwing it out there that I think our industry, if we want to truly tackle modern challenges,
yeah,
we need to start having kind of modern way of thinking
yeah,
about what our next generation is really motivated by and how quickly they can learn the necessary skills and put them to use.
totally. And I think just with like AI knowledge is becoming more and more commoditized. It's like if everything we need to learn is already out there, I think there are obviously other skills and stuff that comes with a 4-year degree. But not everyone has the ability to do that. And I think a lot of the times there are smart people out there that do want to go into these fields, but because they have that barrier, they're not able to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so now you're CEO of GMI, right? So private sector. So what drew you to make this switch and what excites you about the future of GMI?
Well, what drove me here was being recruited by phenomenal ownership, Simmer Mayo and Vicky Mayo, that I
Okay.
knew. I knew them on a philanthropic level. You talk about how it's great to work in government because you feel that calling of public service. You
Yeah.
also get to know people within the community that care passionately about the community.
Hmm.
Simmer and Vicky were always at, like, events of Make-A-Wish Foundation, helping domestic violence shelters for women. I served on the Combating Human Trafficking Council
Yeah.
there. I got to know them. I got recruited over to this after 18 years in government. I looked at it like it was my halfway point in my career.
Yeah.
My calling was Governor Ducey was leaving office, a new governor was coming in.
Okay.
Regardless of who won, I decided the halfway point in my career, the best thing I could do was go get private sector experience.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on the challenges in government, I want to go focus on solutions and innovation. In government, you do not have a research and development
Yeah.
budget. You don't have the ability to be super innovative all the time. That was my calling. Fortunately, being involved in Night Dragon, data miner, some other areas opened up some doors. And then Simmer and Vicky recruited me over because I do have a passion for things happening in my own community
Okay.
locally. And
Yeah.
instead of going to work for a company that was located maybe somewhere else, it was really cool to go to work for a company that is based and headquartered right here as a minority women owned business,
Hmm.
headquartered in Scottsdale, Arizona. We also have an office in Seattle. We have a global presence, but there's something near and dear to my heart to still working for a Arizona company.
Yeah.
That was kind of my calling on that side was both. It's really important for me who I work for, what our mission is, our family, our core values, but also we don't just want to go make money. We want to solve problems for our clients. We truly want to make sure that their worst day doesn't happen. We want to give our clients either a better price on technology that saves them money, they can use that money somewhere else, or we want to provide them better customer service that
Yeah.
enhances their experiences. Lastly, most importantly, enhances their security. What we say at GMI is we are a secure technology solutions company where security comes first.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to ask, where we put our money where our mouth is, you look at the fact that we're one of the only companies in our industry that has promoted a chief security officer, somebody like myself, to
Hmm.
run the entire business.
Yeah. I noticed that.
It's extremely rare. I
Yeah.
give our owners so much credit here.
Yeah.
They recognize how security plays the most pivotal role in our evolving society and the way a company protects itself. But most technology companies, unless it's a founder,
Yeah.
unless the founder created a company and they're a technical expert, maybe they're a security expert,
Hmm.
it doesn't happen. These people have careers in businesses, maybe
Yeah.
legal experience, things like that. You're not seeing chief security officers being promoted into CEO roles. And I want to change that narrative. I want people around the country to realize if you can have a C in front of your title, just because it's security
Hmm.
does not mean you're not a leader. It
Yeah.
probably means you're more battle tested
True.
than anybody else because believe me, nothing prepares you to be the CEO and take over the whole company as the person who previously was in charge of the security.
Yeah.
That person already wasn't sleeping well at night.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. And so, like, let's maybe talk some cybersecurity basics. So, I think For a lot of people, there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to cybersecurity. What's the most common and what is the most avoidable mistakes that you see people or companies making?
It's still the human factor continues to be the most mistakes.
Okay.
The biggest myth out there is that you need expensive, fancy tools to protect yourself and you need to spend millions and millions of dollars to do it.
Yeah.
Probably around 95% of all cybersecurity incidents are human error caused and were low hanging fruit. If you had just done an assessment, if you had just focused on basic cybersecurity training for your employees,
Yeah.
phishing training, penetration testing. Money that is spent at that level is going to give you the best ROI. The
Huh.
companies who think we're going to go buy fancy AI tools and it's going to solve all of our problems may actually lead to more tech debt,
Huh.
which is why a company like GMI, we want to come in and we want to solve your problems. We don't just want to sell you a bunch of expensive products that are going to break your existing systems and not do you any good. If you don't have the
Yeah.
cyber maturity level, you don't like a 16-year-old doesn't deserve a Ferrari, is
Yeah.
what I've always said.
Yeah.
Like, 16-year-old is gonna break it, is gonna get in trouble with it.
Yeah.
You need to start with basic cybersecurity maturity. Look at just after the fact, most cybersecurity incidents that are known publicly.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, MGM Resorts is an example I give all the time.
Yeah.
They're a multi-billion-dollar company. I have a lot of respect for that company. I'm a big fan of them. They went down in a voice phishing attack, right? So a phishing attack.
Okay.
That is meaning social engineering of scattered spiders coming after them, looking at everybody who works in IT at MGM Resorts on LinkedIn,
Yep.
targeting them, going after admin rights, and getting them. That was with more basic cybersecurity controls in place, not controls, I should say, awareness in place,
Mm-hmm.
could have helped protect them.
Yeah.
Those are the types of areas that I think we have this myth in our society that it costs millions of dollars. I tell people all the time, I tell a lot of clients and prospects, thousands of dollars saves you millions of dollars in cybersecurity. Like that is the honest truth
Yeah.
of it. That's what I'm seeing on a daily basis.
Wow. Yeah. I did not know that 90% are kind of human-based errors, not and
Yeah,
tech necessarily can fix that.
yeah, absolutely. So it's not as sexy as saying like, but I just got this great fancy AI tool,
Yep.
right?
Right.
We double down on, nobody likes phishing training. It makes
No.
everybody mad. You know why
I
it
hate
makes
phishing
everybody mad?
training.
Because it works. Like it actually works. Like that's
Yeah.
what you want. I could tell you stories all day of things that I've done throughout my career that I wasn't always the most popular person for doing them,
Yeah.
but they worked and they protected the organization or the state or anything else. That's where the industry, I think sometimes we get a little bit too distracted by bright, shiny objects
Yeah.
instead of focusing on core competencies.
Huh, that's fascinating. And so I guess this is kind of focusing on the shiny object for this question, but if you could redesign one thing, like a law, a browser, a device, something like that, to make people feel safer online, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, you have stumped me. This is great because you didn't give me questions in advance, and I love that. The biggest issue we're faced with, I think, especially with my government experience,
Yeah.
would be data privacy concerns from like you. So you have your civil liberties, you have all these other areas of like, hey, we have to protect our consumers and our citizens. I don't want to compare data privacy laws and those concerns to like the current immigration at like a big level, but
Yeah.
honestly, the United States government for far too long has failed to adjust. And we go back and you can see clips of, presidential debates from the 1980s having conversations on immigration reform. And we're in 2025, and neither party ever did anything to really fix it.
Hmm.
And it's sad to me from somebody who's worked on these issues before is like, you watch these human issues
Yeah.
take such a core, passionate a cause. And it's tough, but our country has failed to basically tackle immigration reform
Uh-huh.
for 45 years. And now we're in the modern times. We sure as heck
Uh-huh.
can't even wrap our minds around like if you run like a data privacy bill
Uh-huh.
like around the country at a state, you'll be amazed at how fast it creates all these problems and boom, blows up and doesn't go anywhere. I know I don't have a magic wand on any of these issues, but I
Yeah.
think that's going to be one of the areas that we're just going to have to as a society wrap our minds around. And what I'm really getting at I truly think that, and I'm not like a big government guy. Like I'm really not, but somewhere we need to hold businesses and government accountable for protecting citizens' data.
Yeah.
There needs to be requirements that say, hey, cybersecurity is too important. If you don't do these basic 5 things, if you're a healthcare company and you
Uh-huh.
don't do these basic 5 things, you're going to get fined. Like
Yeah.
it's too important. Oh, you're critical infrastructure. You're not doing these basic 5 things, and then honestly, I would reward the companies for doing it.
Yeah.
That's the way I would handle it. I would say, hey, if you put 5 basic cybersecurity controls in place and you're in the critical infrastructure sector, you're going to be
Uh-huh.
rewarded with, I don't know, this local tax incentive or
Yeah.
this government grant program, or you're going to be part of a list and association that we promote as being cyber secure companies in Arizona. I think
Yeah.
that would be the way believe me, I've had so many conversations with these people and they cringe. They're like, "Oh my god, you can't do that. Oh, you can't tell this person what to do or that company what to do." But these are the tough challenges because
Uh-huh.
my biggest fear is that a cyber 9/11 happens,
Yeah.
and then after the fact, we come back with like a 9/11 commission to say all the obvious things we weren't doing well.
Yeah.
We already know them.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could change these things now. We have to embrace it. There are so many, and then third party risk as well.
Yeah.
So your largest companies and largest entities aren't going to get hit directly. They're going to get hit through a third party. We've got to figure out a way to protect our SMBs, like our small and medium sized businesses around the country that are
Yeah.
at an extreme disadvantage. If an SMB that works, in the supply chain for like a Walmart, for
Uh-huh.
example, gets hit, it affects the multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah.
And bad guys don't go after that 500-pound gorilla in the room. They go after the third party that can affect it. The Target breach is the prime example. Many years ago, it changed
Yeah.
the industry, but it's still happening. It's let's go through an HVAC company that has access to a portal instead of going after Target directly.
Interesting. And so I guess what are the steps that follow today if there is a data breach? So for example, like the 23andMe data breach where this is like a whole different level of data being like released, right? What happened after that?
Well, I think speaking in the totality of the circumstance of most data breaches,
Yeah.
most companies do not do a good job publicly talking about what's happening.
No.
This does a lot of harm for consumer response and everything else. That type of stuff is really important. But what we push is having your communications team and having your PR team part of
Hmm.
it. Too many times, the spokesmen and women of an organization are not ready to even talk about the cyber emergency,
Yeah.
and the situation blows completely out of control.
Yeah.
There are also a lot of myths, I guess, if you will. People will say, my legal team coming in, my insurance company coming in doesn't want me to talk publicly about it. That's not necessarily the case sometimes, it's just that people are too scared
Yeah.
to talk about it.
Yeah.
Those are basic, I think, low-hanging fruit that we need to handle. Also, I think there's what really keeps me up at night is in a data breach for the most part these days that we're hearing about is ransomware. So
Okay.
you're locked out. A criminal enterprise, because that's who used ransomware for profit, has locked you out of your data. They're requesting Bitcoin to get it back. You're gonna have to rebuild from backup to do it. That's basic. Like you better have a good way. You better be exercising your plans, updating and backing up your data on a regular basis in order to come back and talking publicly about it. What keeps me up at night is what if the next wave of ransomware isn't ransomware? It's we're going to take your data and lock you up. But what if they burn an infrastructure to the ground and say,
Yeah.
hey, we're not in it for the money. Hey, we don't want your Bitcoin. Like, what if a nation state hires the criminals and says, hey, Russia or China could pay a criminal network
Hmm.
to go after and say, hey, and we're going to pay you your Bitcoin up front, but don't give them their data back. Just burn it all to the ground. That is what our society is not prepared for today. We're
Yeah.
always talking. So the incident happens. How fast can you come back? How come back can you rebuild? What about it? What if they had malicious intent as soon as they got in?
Huh.
And it wasn't if their intent wasn't locking you out of your own data, it was
Yeah.
destroying all of your data, then you've got a problem. To
Yeah.
me, that's kinda how when I look to kinda answer your question, I look at what's happened, how it happened. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think, like, one step ahead to say,
Yeah.
"What if that didn't play out that way? What if it played out a different way?" That's
Yeah.
how we try to really, because then you look at the root cause of the problem is you have to make sure nobody gets access to your system. You can't, I always say hope isn't a strategy. Paying
Yeah.
ransom is not a strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for that exact reason, having a cyber insurance policy in place where you're
Yeah.
like, oh, well, We got this, and if it's this value, we'll pay this ransom. That is not a
Yeah.
strategy. Because what if they don't want the payment anymore? What if they
Yeah.
just want to bankrupt you?
That's a terrifying thought.
I know. Sorry about that. Total
Oh my
bug.
gosh. Wow. Okay. So shifting gears a bit, let's talk about maybe the psychology. You said about 95% of attacks are due to almost like human error or ways that it could have been avoided by a human. So I know in Napa, we talked briefly about how like we naturally tend to care about data privacy when there's like an active threat in front of us. And I think you walked me through some examples of that. So would love your thoughts on that. Like why is it that we like if we can visibly see it, we are, really we're feeling really sketched out by it. We're now really involved. And then the second we can't really see it, we don't realize it's a threat. We're like sharing all our data online.
Yeah, like school safety is something that's near and dear to my heart. Our company is really focused on finding better solutions on school safety. It's a good example for this because when you think of school safety, everybody just thinks of active shooters. That's all they
Yeah.
think about.
Yeah.
They don't think of fighting, bullying, human trafficking, which does happen, people loitering on campus, things like that. We think if we just target hard in a school or a facility that we're safe.
Yeah.
We're not. What you can't see most of the time, online threats, things like that, are of your biggest concern. Having cameras at a school doesn't do you any good if nobody's watching it.
Yeah.
You need good software that has good AI capabilities to flag a concern like, hey, there's a fight. Hey, there's somebody loitering on campus.
Yeah.
All those different things. But in our society, if you can see it, you automatically think it's more real than what you can't see. I
Yeah.
gave this example on the panel at the leadership conference, but the Chinese weather balloon over the United States is a prime example
Yeah.
because people went out and they videotaped it on their phones and they were furious. There was like 99% approval. I mean, I'm exaggerating,
Yeah.
but in public opinion, there was like 99% of people who were terrified
Mhm.
about having this weather balloon over the United States because they could physically see it.
Yeah.
But then you look at people utilizing, let's say, TikTok on their phones.
Yeah.
We're like, well, I can't see the threat that
Huh?
somebody might have access to my entire device. Well,
Mhm.
I can't see what they're doing to my data, even though everybody's telling me what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to turn a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
Everybody went outside and videotaped the weather balloon and posted to TikTok
Yeah.
that they wanted it shot down.
Yeah. Some
But
irony
they're
there.
inviting the Chinese government right onto their device, and I'm not trying to make this political because I don't think
Yeah.
this is a political situation. Actually, if you look at the TikTok situation,
Mhm.
Congress overwhelmingly passed that ban. God, I think there was maybe one vote against it somewhere in there.
Yeah.
That bipartisan support doesn't exist in any other area.
Yeah.
But what it does is it shows us that in the security world, what we see always is more impactful to what we can't see.
Yeah.
And that has to change.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are the most urgent and emerging cybersecurity risks? Like you mentioned some things that are keeping you up at night, but in the world of like AI and large language models and deep fakes, right? Like what does cybersecurity in that world look like?
To me, it's publicly available artificial intelligence that's available to everyone. And I know this seems like a good thing and people do use it for some good things,
Yeah.
but the bad guys can utilize AI and weaponize it back against us. And they
Yeah.
utilize it and they learn to use it faster than the good guys do.
Yeah.
The bad guys are kind of one step ahead of us. I think about like when my career started working in counterterrorism, and you use the example of the movie Inside Man about like
Yes.
something that like basic solutions in smartphones and Google Translate didn't exist
Yeah.
back when I made a movie 15 years ago. When my career started, the United States government and the national security industry had an incredible advantage fighting terrorists, especially in places like Afghanistan,
Mhm.
because we could pinpoint their location. We could see them, they couldn't see us.
Mhm.
When basic things like Google Maps came out,
Yeah.
bad guys and insurgents could figure out exactly where a forward operating base was. And this
Hmm.
is before you worked with American companies like Google to block them and try to do different things. But bad guys still had a way to take a map now,
Yeah.
digitize it, and say, well, I know where it's at because I can see it.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to figure it out. They could set like a mortar round, for example. They knew exact distances, they knew exact locations. They
Yeah.
could do things with readily available technology that leveled the battlefield and the playing field when you talk good guys versus bad guys.
Huh.
AI has done that as well. We have
Yeah.
taught our society how to recognize a phishing email. Bad
Mhm.
grammar,
Mhm.
doesn't look like it's in English, right?
Mhm.
AI, like being utilized in phishing emails now,
Yeah.
are a better email than I write.
Yeah.
right? It puts my writing skills to shame. These are just a number of different ways that the emerging threat is really knowing that your adversaries have the same tools that you have.
Yeah.
That is one of the biggest challenges.
Well, I didn't even think about that like Google Earth, Google Maps example, because you would think that 99% of people are just using it to like, track out an area that they want to visit. So it is really crazy to think that pretty much any technology can be utilized by the bad guys somehow. Fascinating. Okay, last question of the segment. Quantum computing. I know it's still really early, but is this something that we should be preparing for, like a quantum resistant crypto system? Is that something that you guys are exploring or thinking about?
Yeah, so it's not something that we like as a company, it's not like a daily topic.
Yeah.
As an industry trend, it
Yeah.
is something we all have to monitor and be cognizant of.
Okay.
Monitoring that industry trend is a huge concern for us and seeing its capabilities, but on a daily basis, it's probably not our highest concern.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. Awesome. Okay, so let's switch gears a bit and move on to the rendered exchange, a moment where we will bring creativity and tech together. So this week, we're showcasing a creative framework by New York based designer Jin Yi Yang. It's called the Five Whys Root Cause Analysis. And it basically blends two pretty well known system thinking and introspection frameworks. So the method uses two tools. One is the Five Whys, which is a technique for drilling down into a challenge by asking why 5 times to basically uncover the root cause. And then the second one is the iceberg model, which is a systems thinking tool that helps us understand how events are driven by patterns, structures, and underlying mindsets, essentially the stuff below the surface. So Jinyi's version basically helps people examine their behavior with curiosity and not judgment. And, whether that's doom scrolling or procrastination, the goal is to really create a more intentional change by understanding like what's really driving us behind the surface. So I attempted to use this framework and apply it to a cybersecurity example that I think at least a majority of people can maybe relate to. And this is automatically clicking like accept all cookies or approving all app permissions without even really thinking. So I'm going to walk you through the framework and I would love to get your thoughts on it. And I also need some of your help to fill in some of the action items. So, problem statement, right, is like, I always accept cookies and app permissions without reading them, which is true. So, took an attempt to say why. So, the first time I asked myself, it's like, I want to get to the content and I just want to use the app, right? Ask myself again, why? It just feels like a waste of time to read the details. And I just assume it's not a big deal. Okay, why? Everyone does it, right? I've never seen bad consequences personally from this. Again, why? The effects are invisible or delayed, and I don't really connect data tracking to my real life. And then on the last why I asked, it's basically like I'm conditioned to prioritize convenience, and I trust that someone else has made it safe enough.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so after kind of thinking about that a little bit more, kind of put together maybe like the root cause for why we do this. And so, like I mentioned, we're conditioned to trade privacy for convenience without fully understanding the value of what we're giving away. And this could be because design patterns that encourage constant fatigue by putting out these like insane terms of services or these like really insane documents that no one's reading. That's like not really helping the user understand it. It's a lack of transparency or education about data use, which I think you've kind of hinted at. Invisible nature of digital consequences, and essentially the cultural norm that everyone does it, so it must be safe. So, wanted to get your opinion. Are there any action items that you could suggest to someone to basically like understand this problem a little bit more and maybe not be so quick to accept all?
Boy, well, this is spot on to one of the biggest challenges. I got interviewed on the news like a year ago on who's actually the biggest target, like on scams and frauds.
Hmm.
We had this myth that it was always senior citizens, right? Like the
Yeah.
person falling for, you know, fraud is always like, a senior citizen. It's not the case. Our younger generation has these root causes that you have very articulately put down here, where they have, because they grew up in technology and having the technology in hand, they
Hmm.
have an unreasonably high amount of trust
Yeah.
already, thinking that somebody else secured it for me. that
100%.
I'm just used to having it. I'm not going to question it. It has made our younger generation actually even more of a target of these criminals than senior citizens who don't understand it and don't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So this is incredibly on point. One of the areas I don't know if this is exactly what you're looking for, but I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah.
What a recommended action of like how it like you solve these problems.
Uh-huh.
You almost want like a tiered third party, almost like a risk acceptance or a grade level scoring of like a number or a color
Mhm.
to pull that accepting cookies or anything else saying, what about like, okay, like, isn't it like DigiCert gives you certifications and rankings, like how they give you the security box, right? Like on a browser, when I open up a browser, it gives me that little security lock. I can see it right now and it makes me feel safe.
Yeah.
Well, when I'm accepting things, it should also, there almost should be this third party scoring system to say, this is ranked green. It
Mhm.
is least risky. This
Uh-huh.
is yellow. It has moderate risk. Oh my gosh, this is red. You know, when you get that, you're joining a website that is unencrypted. It is
Yeah.
non-secure. Please be careful. It kind of, I almost think an action item would be trying to figure out because nobody wants to read the fine print. There is
No.
this fatigue here. I'm looking through this. You would say like, hey, you're doing online shopping at Brooks Brothers, like you've accepted cookies, their cookies are rated this as far as the way, or what if it was the level that they were tracking you across platforms?
Hmm.
What if there was a way to say, like, are you tracking everything across all platforms?
Yeah.
Like, because you know, when you go into your settings, you can say only, I'm only going to accept relevant, cookies, things like that. There
But they
should
make it
almost,
hard to do that. That's not the automatic. You have to, like, go in there and uncheck
yep,
everything. It's, like, almost the default is to accept all, right?
exactly. What if our companies, in order to impress their clients,
Yeah.
did a better job of saying like, "Hey, ours is rated gold. We have a
Yeah.
gold standard because we only rank we're a clothing company, and we're only going to monitor, like, anything you put into Google or anything you're looking at that, like, clothing.
Yeah.
We're not going to care about your, you know, beauty regimen. Like, we
Yeah.
don't care about, what soap you're buying."
Yeah. Why don't we have that? We need that.
I don't
Should we
know,
build
that's
it?
we should. I think we just came up
Yeah.
with a $1,000,000 idea. Now don't
Yeah.
publish this episode, save
Yeah.
this art for ourselves, come up with
There we
this,
go.
we get rich.
There we go. Awesome. Any other recommended actions? If not, I think this one makes a lot of sense. And then I just added one here. It's just no one's doing it. We should, right? Learn about just basic data privacy laws, tech ethics, learn about phishing, just like basic stuff like this that I think when you're working at a corporate company, you do kind of take these like classes here and there to learn about it, but I'm not really applying it to my daily life?
No, what's needed is real world examples. The
Yeah.
number one way that people learn is from an actual reality check.
Mm-hmm.
They need to know like, "Hey, this happened to somebody. This is how it
Hmm.
impacts you." That's what's needed. Look, throughout my career, I was looking for ways to get through to people.
Yeah.
I had a meme contest even going back into COVID to get people to pay attention to cybersecurity. So I said, you make a meme and it's so good on cybersecurity and I use it in a meeting, I'm going to send you a Uber Eats gift card
Yeah.
while you're at home to use. The whole point was nobody has because of this fatigue and everything else, they don't want to take a 45-minute training course. It doesn't do any good once a year.
Mm-mm.
What, sending them a couple phishing emails throughout the year doesn't do any good. You need on a daily basis to remind them to pay attention. Nobody wants to click on a link. Nobody wants to watch a video.
Yeah.
A meme that opens in the email
Yeah.
takes 5 seconds or less to process
Yeah.
as like a funny, we did for the holidays, we did Home Alone movies, Love Actually, and was like, to me, you're perfect when you don't click on phishing emails,
Yeah.
at the door. And it's like in an email, it's
I
like
love it.
all we were trying to do is maybe have one bad apple,
Yeah.
think twice about opening an email and opening an attachment, and then our job was done. And what? We made a meme. It didn't cost us any money.
Yeah.
We need to figure out a way to get through to the end users in a way that is a little bit more creative.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. I think especially with the newer generation as well. Like, I think a meme's a genius idea. Awesome. Okay, so this brings us to our final segment, Would You Ship? And Tim, I'm going to pitch you a bold product idea in the security space. And you tell me if you would ship this product. So, in our last podcast recording on the Rendered Exchange segment, I actually had a real time conversation with a deepfake guest. It was his voice and his face and everything, and it was in real time. It was honestly really crazy. And we're clearly entering a world where seeing is no longer believing. So here's the idea. I'm calling it a deep fake shield. And so essentially, it's a browser or a device plugin that uses real time AI to detect, flag, and optionally replace deepfake as you browse or stream content. So I, as a user, can decide what I want to replace the deepfake with. So it could be like my favorite cartoon, a historical figure, myself. I can completely just blur it out in the first place. And so, for example, like you're watching a viral video of a politician making like a shocking statement and Deepfake Shield flags it as synthetic. It overlays a message like possible deepfake detected. It will replace the deepfake with like SpongeBob, and it'll add archival footage of verified statements that are relevant to the topic. So we'll basically give each user the power to customize what they want to flag, what they want to turn off. Do they want to replace the deepfake? Do they want to completely not watch the video, instead see like a calming forest video, something like that? So what are your thoughts? Is this something you would ship?
Ship.
Ship.
For sure.
Okay.
Deep fakes are still, and I say still because we in the government started warning about this for the hashtag 2020 election. I say hashtag. CISA was only hashtag protect 2020 when I was the
Yeah.
state CISA in Arizona. And we had this moment where we said, hey, we can't just protect the 2020 election. We've got to protect all elections
Yeah.
forever. We started warning of deep fakes then. I'm actually shocked that we haven't seen it more of a threat on a daily basis in our society, but it's there. It's coming. Something like this is needed.
Yeah. I'm starting to see it in content, and I like find myself questioning, is this even real? Did this even happen? It's this really dystopian thing that's starting to happen that I don't think we've really thought about too much. But this kind of has me thinking like this product, it could kind of like turn the digital world into this almost like choose your own reality kind of nightmare where there is no truth, there is no understanding. And so, yes, the ability to flag something as a deep fake, very important. But I don't know. It
Have you
just seems like a weird reality that we're dealing with here.
Have you watched this movie with Steve Carell that just came out, I think, on like Apple TV called Mountainhead?
No.
All right. I'm not endorsing the movie.
Okay.
I'm not endorsing the idea. I actually, full disclosure, wasn't the biggest fan of the movie.
Okay.
However, on this topic of deep fakes and everything else,
Yeah.
it's the core of the entire movie. So you almost just need to watch the trailer,
Yeah.
like 2 minutes and watch the trailer and save yourself the movie. But
Cool.
huge concerns over deep fakes, yes.
Wow. We'll have to peep. Well, Tim, this has been such a thoughtful, energizing conversation. So thank you for taking the time, telling the world about cybersecurity. And, I think showing us that trust and human behavior are just, if not more important than the tech itself.
Thank you. Thank you for spreading the word. Thank you for going out there and taking, your time and your brain power and everything else to put yourself out there and to connect with other people. It's not always easy. It really isn't. It's incredibly time consuming and it's challenging. You're doing a phenomenal job. I applaud you for doing it. You're definitely helping to make our industry, better. But
Yeah.
by better, what I really mean is like stronger, safer, more secure.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. So
Yeah.
keep sharing ideas. There's really no wrong answer with how we tackle these modern challenges.
Yeah. Agreed. And hope to see you in New York in a few months.
Yes.
And to everyone listening, if you liked this episode, share it with someone who still sets their password to password 123.